Hello, we're glad you found time to join us on this edition of the program Half Hour of Hope. This program centers on the activities of the wife of Abia State Governor in specific areas as packaged by the media team. I am the anchor, Chinezerem Abakuru.
Life comes once you have to live it as best as you can.
Remember, the deadly illness sickle cell can be stopped if you know your genotype and avoid having a child with someone who is not compatible.
HIV is real and it's very much around. Be safe.
Constantly watch out for illnesses like diabetes and cancer.
Our children are the future. We must educate them and protect them from all sorts of abuse.
Your environment is important. Always keep it clean.
We are Vicar Foundation. We believe that working together, we can improve our society. At Vicar Foundation, we provide houses for the indigent and empower people with skills and equipment. We care about health, environment, education, and enhance the moral values of our people. Support us today at Vicar Foundation. We are your partners in making the world a better place. Vicar Foundation, hope for all.
News updates.
Housing is one of the basic needs of man, and I am sure you will agree with me that being homeless is not a pleasant experience at all for anyone. This is the reason the wife of the state governor, Mrs. Nkechi Ikpeazu, recently built, furnished, and handed the keys of 3-bedroom flat each to 3 indigent women, Mrs. Onyedikachi Emeka Miriogo, Mrs. Uloma Nwogo, and Mrs. Florence Eberechi, and a 2-bedroom apartment to Mrs. Ogadimma Izuchi Festus. Of course, the joy of these women knew no bounds on receipt of the keys to these apartments. This brings the number of houses built by Mrs. Ikpeazu for the indigent across the state to 55.
Showcase.
On the Showcase segment, we shall be talking with a legal practitioner. The name is Barrister Chidinma Alozie. Pastor, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Barrister Chidinma Alozie is a legal officer of the Ministry of Justice. She is also the chairperson, International Federation of Women Lawyers, Abia State, FIDA. Our topic today is sickle cell disease, what the law says. Last year, 2018, we got to know that the Abia State House of Assembly enacted a law termed the Abia State Identification of Blood Group and Genotype Law 2018, Law number 5 of 2018. Now, would you give us an overview of this law?
Law number 5 of Abia State was passed to check the incessant case or cases of child mortality rate in Nigeria and in Abia State particularly, because this issue of sickle cell anemia is a disease that people have been taking for granted and is a killer disease. Having found out how important it is for Abia State indigents to get to know about sickle cell and the implications of sickle cell disease. So it became important for law number 5 to be passed. And it just generally seeks to talk about the importance of running tests to ensure compatibility or incompatibility of couples as regards sickle cell.
You mean before marriage?
Before marriage.
Okay.
And then generally also for even the children before they are of adult age to know what their status is. So that before you even think of getting into marriage, you have to ask the right questions. You know the right questions to ask. You already know your blood group. You already know your genotype. So you don't have to get into any relationship when you already know who you are and what your genotype is. So that's generally what law number 5 is about. And also it's brought out agencies who are to see that this law is complied with.
So what does this law help to achieve?
The objective of this law generally is, one, to ensure that people are aware of their status, to bring kind of sensitization that sickle cell anemia is dangerous, and also for people to actually know their status, for people not to get married blindly, and then for the general health care of citizens of Abia State. Because when you know your genotype, you know your blood group, it's easier during emergency case for you to be attended to.
I'd like to ask this question, looks similar to what you just talked about, but I think something good will come out of it. Why is it necessary to have someone's blood group, genotype stated on your identity card? Because that's what the law says.
It's actually very, very important because, like I said earlier on, during emergency cases, you have accident victims. Now, some of them will need blood transfusion. And then when you don't have their genotype, when you carry your ID card on you, it's easier to tell this is this person's genotype or blood group. And then you can actually facilitate whatever blood transfusion immediately. And it could take some time, in cases of emergency, to start running a test to find out the blood group of an individual. You could lose that person. So it's important to have your genotype and your blood group stated on your ID. Then again, too, it's also safer emotionally wise, because when someone is approaching you and probably you have your ID on you, the person is serious about a relationship, and if the person looks at your ID, discovers maybe you're not compatible, so there's no point building a relationship that will go nowhere. So it's easier for one, health reasons, for one, emotional reasons, it's easier.
Now, I'd like to ask this question, especially when you talked about accident victims and all of that. Or we've heard about cases where people go to find out their genotypes and blood groups, and they end up getting the wrong information.
Yes, that is true.
So what happens in such a case?
Okay, well, there's a new technology going on. Nigeria is evolving. Abia State is evolving as well. And it may interest you to know that in Abia now, we have 2 facilities that can actually give you almost 100% test proof of what your genotype or blood group is. When you go to FMC or you go to Vicar Foundation, there's this new test that they run, the high profile test. That one actually tells you exactly what your genotype or blood group is. It's difficult to make mistakes in that one. Unlike the old system of testing where we have, but the dangerous thing about having a wrong genotype or wrong blood group inserted on your ID is that you could be transfused with blood that is not the same as yours. That is why law number 5 actually makes it an offense for either someone doing it intentionally, inserting a wrong blood group or genotype on his or her ID card is an offense, and it goes with a penalty.
For someone who does it unintentionally, or everybody may not have access to Vicar Foundation and Federal Medical Center, and something happens and you find out that this person has got the wrong information on his ID card, will the person still be punished?
Well, you can't punish someone for a crime he or she did not commit. The person did not put it there, knowing fully well it's not his or her genotype. Actually, the person to be punished is the institution that actually issued that result. The institution that did that. I'm trying to advise institutions, medical laboratories that are into running the test, to do the most recent one. That is the high profile, they know what they call it, the medical practitioners. So to use that method, I'm also trying to advise Abia citizens as well. Like, I wouldn't go to a hospital now or a medical facility and ask them to run a test on the old, the old test method that
you
they
wouldn't
do.
know. Why you're talking like this is because you're informed about this. Quite a number of people don't know about this law. Yes, and a number of people don't know much about sickle cell disease. Okay, so they just get to do it. They walk into a facility and they say, okay, this is what I want to do. You're not there inside the laboratory with them. So they just come out, give you your result, you pay them, and you walk away.
I think the essence of this law too, apart from the enforcement agencies, apart from their duty of enforcing this law, part of their duty also is to make sure that there is enough sensitization on this. I also think that is what Vicar Hope is trying to do as well, to sensitize the public. You'll be surprised that what you're saying is right. A lot of people, even educated ones, literate ones, don't know much about this whole sickle cell anemia disease and all of that. So I think sensitization is key. And I also want to commend BCA for doing what you're doing now. Well, we can help it. That is the society we are in. But we need to pass as much information as possible. The NOA, I think that's National Orientation Agency, should be at work too. And the different agencies, Ministry of Health and the rest of them, should be at work. They should also tell them where they will find the correct machines that will run the correct tests.
I'll let you go on that. Now, who should carry these ID cards? The law says we should wear our ID cards with our genotype and blood group clearly written, stated on it. Who should carry these ID cards?
Well, if you are supposed to wear an ID card, whether you're a public servant or a civil servant, you work in a private establishment, you're supposed to have your ID on you. The law says it's expected that even if you're a market man or a market woman, you should have a form of identification kind of that says that you have gone for the screening, that you have gone for this test. So it may not necessarily be an ID if you're not in any company or any institution that gives an ID card, but then you should have an evidence that you have actually gone for this test. Everybody should have it. Okay. School children are supposed to have it.
Children, you mean?
School children as well. Every pupils, university undergraduates, everybody should have it.
That's interesting. Now, every law is meant to be executed. Every law is meant to be enforced. How is this law being enforced in Abia State?
Well, it's a new law. The law was passed in 2018. But the enforcement agencies are Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. They are all enforcement agencies, with Ministry of Health having the overriding authority over these other agencies. The police as well is an enforcement agency going by the law. Well, there are sensitization going on now concerning this law and what the duties of these enforcement agencies are. Now, some of the duties of these enforcement agencies are that for Ministry of Education, before you're admitted in a school children should take that test. Run the test, know your genotype, know your blood group before you get admitted. And that is ongoing now. And before you enter any secondary school now.
Really?
Yes. I know that my 3 children, before they got into secondary school, I had to run that test.
Mm-hmm.
I
Private
did.
Or government owned?
Private and government owned too.
Okay.
Government owned and private.
So it's actually being enforced now?
I think it is. Even though I have not seen any case that has gone to litigation, that has come to court. But with a test case, I had to run the test for my children because the school insisted that my kids should do it. So I had to do that. So I think the enforcement agencies are working. And if some are not working, it should also be, this should be also an eye-opener for them, that they have a duty that they ought to perform.
Okay. Is there a penalty for someone who wears an ID card without the genotype and blood group stated?
Yes, there's a penalty.
Really?
Yes. For someone who does not have an ID, or if you have one, your genotype or blood group is not stated, clearly stated on it, I think it's a 10,000 naira fine.
Really?
Yes.
So if I'm walking on the road and I come across a policeman, for instance, and he asked me, where is your ID card? And I present it and he doesn't have my genotype and blood group, he would whisk me off to the police station and demand 10,000 naira.
Exactly.
This is interesting.
10,000 naira fine.
Now, what other offenses or what other actions constitute an offense with respect to this law?
Okay. Again, according to the law, is an offense for parents to give out their children's hand in marriage without going for that test. So is an offense. Is also an offense for any institution or registry to wed individuals without citing and documenting the evidence of their compatibility in genotype. Is also an offense. The offense carries a penalty of 100,000 naira for any religious institution or any statutory body that has a duty of wedding couples. It's compulsory that you must cite the genotype compatibility test form and document it. And then it's also an offense for any healthcare facility or provider who fails to report to enforcement authority any case of sickle cell anemia, birth, or child mortality. So you can see it's also an offense where you have a healthcare facility or you have a hospital and the child is given birth there with sickle cell anemia. The law imposes a duty on the healthcare facility or hospital to inform the enforcement agency, Ministry of Health, about the birth of a child with sickle cell anemia. So I know that most hospitals are not aware of this. So they should be, because it's also an offense now. And
ignorance is not an excuse.
Ignorance is actually not an excuse. And the penalty for this is 200,000 naira. So it's that serious. And then it's also an offense.
Now, you said something about marriage. It's an offense for a religious institution to wed couples without clearly citing their compatibility test. In a situation where intending couple involved, despite the fact that they know that they're not compatible and possibly they believe they're so much in love with each other, they can't do without each other, and they decide to go ahead and get married, despite the fact that their parents don't agree, despite protests by their family, the church, the health institution where the test was carried out and all of that. They just decide to go ahead to stay together as a couple. What happens?
That is very common too. And I think it's part of the reason why this law was actually promulgated. This is where the amendment of this law comes in. Because the law does not prohibit couples who are incompatible from getting married. The law strictly insists that they should go for the test. But the law was silent on the outcome of the test. If they go for the test and they are incompatible, the law does not impose any duty on them not to get married. For most people, like they say love is blind, they insist that they will get married. That is where the law needs to be amended. Intending couples do not get married once they know they are incompatible.
What are the roles of parents with respect to this law?
If you have had a close relation, who is a sickle cell anemia patient, you will understand the trauma that they pass through is terrible. It's not something someone can wish on anybody. And then because those who say that love is blind, because they've not experienced it, they can say that love is blind until they get into it. And most times what it does is to either breaks the marriage or it puts the couple into a lifelong trauma of taking care of a sickle cell anemia patient. And then what it also does is the child who is a victim, in this case, suffers all through. So when you see all this, you wonder why someone would get into a marriage when they know they are not compatible. So my advice to parents is important, and to schools, to all these institutions who are enforcing agencies, to take this very, very serious. I've seen sickle cell anemia patients and I've heard what they go through And some of them blame their parents for putting them in that situation. And when you have a child who all through the number of years he or she is going to spend on earth keeps blaming you, for bringing him or her into a world to suffer, it's not something someone would enjoy. So I think parents should make sure, first of all, before you even start thinking of marriage, go for the test. And also advise your children as well. And you run the test when they're in school. They already know their genotype, so there's no need to get into an emotional relationship that will even make them start thinking of talking about love is blind and start thinking of getting married to someone who is not compatible with them.
Excusing it out.
Excusing it out. So you put it into them that it doesn't matter who it is. Once you're not compatible, you're not compatible, and there's no issue of marriage should be discussed. So parents should take this very serious. And then enforcement agencies, the schools, the hospitals, clinics, laboratory, we should all take this serious.
Thank you very much. Do you have a parting shot for us as we wrap up on this segment?
Sickle cell anemia is a killer disease, and we can avoid it if we all work together to do that.
Thank you so much. We've been talking with Barrister Chidinma Alozie, Legal Officer, Ministry of Justice, who is also the Chairperson, International Federation of Women Lawyers, Abia State, FIDA. Thank you, Barrister, for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Have you seen the sun? Have you seen the moon? They are shining light for you. And have you seen the stars shining in the dark? 'Cause God is still watching you. Life is beautiful, however you choose. Be grateful for life. Love is beautiful whenever I'm with you. What a time to be alive. In no matter the condition, believe in your heart and you go there alright. No forget say after rainfall, and after the dark the sun goes shine. Keep your heart, my friend, don't lose yourself. In the morning time the sun goes shine. Do your best, but don't lose yourself. 'Cause in the morning time the sun goes. Have you ever seen the love in a mother's eyes when she holds her little one? And have you seen the joy in a father's pride in a son he truly loves? Wherever you go, remember, make it shine your light, reach December. Never lose your soul. Whatever you do, remember, stay humble and cool your temper. Don't forget your own. 'Cause in no matter the condition, you just believe in your heart and you go there alright. Don't forget, say after rainfall, and after the dark the sun goes shine. Keep your heart, my friend, don't lose yourself. In the morning time the sun goes shine. Do your best, but don't lose yourself. 'Cause in the morning time the sun goes shine. Keep your heart, my friend, don't lose yourself. In the morning time the sun goes shine. Do your best, but don't lose yourself. 'Cause in the morning time the sun goes shine. Your light, it will show you the road. It will lead you home. Hold on tight and learn to fight now that you're on your own. Yeah. You go hard sometimes, you go fall sometimes, you won't understand. Never go, they try, but you go there alright. You are in safe hands. In no matter the condition, believe in your heart and you go there alright. No forget, say after rainfall, and after the dark. So keep your heart, my friend, don't lose yourself. In the morning time, the sun goes shine. Do your best, but don't lose yourself. 'Cause in the morning time, the sun goes shine. Keep your heart, my friend, don't lose yourself. In the morning time, the sun goes shine. Do your best, but don't lose yourself. 'Cause in the morning time, the sun will shine. Oh yeah, the sun will shine. In the morning time, the sun will shine. Oh yeah, oh, 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 oh. The sun will shine. It's almost breaking down. Yeah, the sun must shine. The sun will shine.
Ladies and gentlemen, gossip day for town.
Kedu ihe iche na-eme nwanne be anya?
Ịdị sure ọ bụghị ọgbanje?
Nke bụ na ekwesịrị ka chọọ ya mmụọ ọjọọ.
Makwa family deliverance.
O nwekwara ike bụrụ ndị village bịara ọgụ.
Makwa m.
Hell, she. Oh, Banji, on the village bero, or deliverance. I gabaru na agbara. Ignorance in high places. Get to learn more about sickle cell disease and its management, plus other interventions of the Office of the Abia First Lady on the program Half Hour of Hope every Wednesday at 11:05 a.m. on the dial 88.1 FM on Wire. Half Hour of Hope, insightful, rich, incisive, rewarding. 11:05 every Wednesday morning on 88.1 FM. Join us. For your questions and comments on this program, send SMS only to the number 0701 538 3628. 0701 538 3628. And on that note, we have come to the end of the program Half Hour of Hope. Let's do this again, same time, same station next week. On behalf of the media team, I am Chineze Rem Ambakuru, praying that in all your endeavors, you will shine like a diamond.